Hello and welcome back to the Morning Skate Podcast. I am your host, DJ Mitchell, here with Matt Moody to go over the Thursday 9-game slate. A little bit smaller than last time. Maybe we'll take a minute just to recap Tuesday. Matt, how is your Wednesday going so far?
Yeah, probably not good, but we'll see. Connor McMichael is the GOAT, so having just one game to watch, unfortunately, people will now realize that Connor McMichael is the best player on the Washington Capitals, and hopefully that's not a sentence that ages just as well as your Shane Wright is the best player on the Kraken take that immediately turned to ice.
Yeah.
I see the hat you're wearing also.
Nothing else to say.
Yeah,
nothing else to really say. The Shane Wright situation, it is what it is. Tuesday was interesting. I feel like different than most of the times I cash. I'm not sure if anyone feels the same as I do, but when have a good chance and I feel like everything's going my way and everything's just turning up DJ and then it completely falls apart, it feels like I still lost, even though I cashed minimally on the DFS and I hit 3 of my first 6 bets and then the next 3 didn't hit. I just feel like it ends up feeling so much worse than it is. Like when you have the opposite situation come, it feels like all this found money, like, and you're not even close to cashing. And then you get this, third period. It's like, holy crap, I made money. And like, I woke up on Wednesday and was like, I lost, you know what I mean? But like, I really didn't. I thought I had I think I played well and ran a bit poor. All things considered. Matt, how did your Tuesday go though?
Yeah, I ran into the Hagel hat trick on the turbo, that early slate. So fortunately, that was enough to cover the night slate losses. But I was just live tilting in our Discord the Calgary Pittsburgh game, and ultimately, I missed the cash line in every contest by I think like point or by like 1.4 or whatever. So like that Nedeljkovic blowing the 1-goal lead in the final minute and then overtime and then the shootout just being just the slowest of deaths possible was pretty frustrating. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Carolina four-man.
Yeah.
I went Carolina. I went heavy Carolina, the 4 without Gostisbehere. And then just all my one-offs didn't do much. Hannafin and Harley were fine at defense for sure, but Malkin and Gunther certainly could have done better there. And that's what ultimately did me in. So we're back at it though for Thursday with a nice 9-gamer, I think.
Yeah, 9-gamer. Yep. I also ended up going to Nedeljkovic. I pivoted between a bunch of goalies all day. Ended up saying, that my one outdoor if I have to get him in, I needed to go down at goalie, and it's like, well, I'm not going Rittich anymore. I'm not gonna. I just felt like that was unnecessary on such a big slate, and to get kind of punished for, again, I think playing what was the right goalie at that price just felt unnecessary. They close out that game. They could have won 3-1, 3-2, fine. To end up losing 4-3 with all that just kind of felt unnecessary. But that's goalie. But what are you going to do? The Penguins do suck. Not much you can really do about that. But the Flames continue to plague Matt. That's just going to be the future of everything that we do on this show. But we'll move forward. Again, I think that a lot of what we said was pretty good. Like we kind of said, like, I'm not playing the Panarin chalk. There's reasons why. Like, I love this team in New York. And like, it kind of ran out. Of course, you could have played some Rangers and won. It wasn't like they were mutually exclusive, but like that was sort of
I would say the best part of our night was not the Rangers, it was the Islanders. I mean, they were like 10% owned, and it was pretty clear that without Barzal, without Duclair, that Horvat and Barzal were, a disaster. Like the power plays were a mess. Obviously, we didn't know that in recording, but like the team without Duclair, I think we correctly noted that team is just not the same until they get a competent winger alongside Barzal and Horvat. And with their prices, with the matchup, with the ownership, I definitely think that if you listened and avoided, some people even played Lion in our chat. I'm not sure if we had anything to do with that or not, but obviously that was the nuts there.
Yeah. I'll just mention, I guess, my lineup really quickly, and then we'll move forward. But I ended up doing the Pedersen, Garland, Quinn Hughes, which was great. The Dorofeyev one-off, like I said, 4 shots, a goal, and an assist. Can't beat that at 3,300. The Delkovich, and then I went with the 4-man Ottawa, and Ottawa scored 4 goals in the first period and never lit the lamp again. Norris, the Chuck, Batherson, and Sanderson. Sanderson held off the score sheet, his season low for fantasy. And again, it's just one of those situations where I got pretty good ownership other than, Sanderson was near 9% in the $40. But like, I feel like I got pretty good ownership on everything. I had this really nice, well correlated, well put together team. And the teams combined for, if you might one off, whatever, but like, an insane amount of goals. It definitely could have broken my direction. It just didn't. And that's the name of the game, though. You know what I mean? Like, Ottawa ends up getting into a boat race with Utah, and you got a chance there, but they just kind of put the clamps down and finish that one off, and that'll happen. So we can move forward if you're ready. We're going to go game by game through the Thursday slate. Do you want to start with Dallas and Boston?
For sure. Just off the top, we're looking at 60K total prize pools here on Thursday. I think it's normally 80K. But just keep that in mind. The 333 and the $15 are super top heavy. 20K to first in both contests, so it's a third of the prize pool going to first place. Just makes it more important to have the actual, not the nuts in the 333, of course, but just you don't really get much for finishing in second. It drops from 20K to 5K, which is just brutal. It really does suck. So just be mindful of that. And we're certainly playing for first place, even more so than other slates, just because of how top heavy the prizes are over on DraftKings. There's a 1550 qualifier that is 3 of 15 as of recording this. I don't know if it'll be there in the morning, to be honest. I'm not sure how appetizing the how the high stakes players are trying to get into the contest or not. But just note it if you are one of those people who wants to get in it. It's only 15 slots, and obviously that's the easiest way to make it to the live final if you are trying to push for that. So we can head on into my updated Excel here. If you are on the audio feed, of course, this is, I guess, not simulcasted, but, over on DJ's YouTube channel. So you can check that stream out if you want some of the visuals to go along with what we are talking about.
And join the chat like Aaron, saying nice things like that we're sharp, which is untrue, but very kind of him to say. And that, DraftKings is just going to, for no good reason, diminish the prize pools for hockey because they are idiots. This game is a 5.5 over under in Boston, minus 102 on that over 5.5. Dallas, a very slate, minus 120 favorite again in Boston. The Bruins have been put on, are these guys bad watch, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. They have not played well. That top line got bullied in Nashville. They lost 4-0. It seems like Brad Marchand has not shown up to play this year so far, et cetera, et cetera. I, again, will say that in this situation, in many different vacuums, I'd say, maybe I'd take a look at Boston, and Matt will get to a little bit of reason, but I'm going to stick to my priors and say I'm not avoiding I'm not going to just completely capitulate and say, I'm going to actually stack against Dallas after every single show saying I'm avoiding Dallas. So
of course, I can't see how this looks. It's just the windows are not cooperating. Can you see all the teams?
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay. So Boston here, you can see that on their expected goals, they've been pretty poor. Their differential among the worst in the league. Obviously, these are super small samples, and like Washington, I don't even have rolling 5 games to work with. Obviously, I will after tonight's game gets in there. But you can see that Boston, even though they've been winning, of course, they kind of got a correction against Nashville. They got obliterated by them too, but it was a little fraudulent, little percentages driven. So certainly mindful of that. And of course, the pace that Boston's playing with is non-existent. There's just been very little shot activity in their games, which is partially their doing, of course, but that's at least some context to the idea that Boston isn't necessarily the worst matchup, but it's not like you should be targeting Boston at all, certainly against Dallas. But on the Dallas front, they're kind of a mess, but I kind of love it because this Robertson-Harley pairing is going to be listed as power play 2. Now, They were the first over the boards for the very first opportunity they got. They didn't do anything with it, and I mean, I guess no power play unit really did much because they only scored if the goalie pulled. But ultimately, this first unit, quote unquote, did wind up getting slightly more time on ice, and it has Miro Heiskanen, so like it's probably the number one unit, but it's definitely a split unit situation, and I honestly think I prefer the second unit straight up. So Harley's another option here. Definitely a bailout from last slate, him scoring the goal with the pulled goalie. But pricing's super low here. And if you are sort of on the Boston is fraudulent angle, it's very possible that, Dallas is a team that they're so cheap that even if they only score 2 goals in your stack, they're still probably likely to pay off. So you don't need the moon from these guys for sure. Any thoughts on where you would stack within Dallas?
I mean, I think you kind of drew it up nicely. Stankoven, Johnston, and Robertson. I mean, not Johnston. Stankoven,
Yep.
Robertson, and Harley seems fine. Stacked through the line, stacked through the power play. It's not shocking, I guess. I was thinking about how much we were touting the, Cutter Gauthier lead the rookies in goals situation. And I was like, man, Stankoven's been really good, but he has 0 goals on the year. I think eventually that should break. It's not like he's been bad, and he has been shooting, and it's not, it's kind of one of those things where it's like he just kind of is belonging, and rightfully so, in their top 4 or 5 forwards. So there's no reason he should be priced down at 4K at all. So yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. It's just I don't know if I'm playing it, but I do think that's where I'd go for sure.
Certainly a decent appetite starter. As for Boston, this is what they rolled with last game. I don't trust it to stick. They got played out of the building. Marchand was moved up to the top line. That didn't fare well. So it's here. David Pastrnak is 8,800. He's, of course, in play on any slate. In this one in particular, we do have Colorado, but we don't have some of the other, we have a Kucherov sighting. Actually, I guess we have Matthews, but namely, we don't have Edmonton. So, 8,800 Pastrnak could be in play just because matchup agnostic, who cares what Pasternak's price at? He can get you 30, 35 on any slate. But there's nothing really here to call out as being overly useful or relevant. But just be mindful that these are subject to change. And so, like the second line of Frederick, Coyle, Max Jones could very well have Pavel Zacha or Morgan Geeky or something on it come Thursday morning. Anything else you want to talk about in this game?
No, I mean, we got kind of like a mention of like why Harley, I guess, and to me, it's just like he is the highest ups, one of the higher up at his price, like one of the higher upside defensemen in the league.
Here's why.
Yeah,
you look at last year, and his fantasy point production per minute was outstanding. He's obviously an ascending player. He's one of the best young guys in the NHL, first rounder in 2019. He's just, I mean, he does it all. He shoots, he blocks, and he gets points like a madman. He's just really good. I don't have like every D-man lined up next to each other, but like just keep an eye on this 1.4 sort of index of fantasy points, and you'll see that he's going to be one of the best per minute defensemen. So when he's sub 5K with a prominent power play role, like it's really hard, I think, to argue he's not a good play. Miro was certainly in play as well at just 5K. But on a per minute basis, he and Harley are pretty similar, and the minutes are not that different between Harley and Heiskanen. So that's why. I mean, it's been a long-standing fascination. It's not just a as of late thing with Harley and us here.
Yeah. So going to the next game, St. Louis at Toronto. This is unsurprisingly a pretty big Toronto favorite, minus 230 at home, 6 over under, minus 118. Of course, the big news here is Robert Thomas goes to the IR, suffered a fractured ankle against Winnipeg. That was probably worst case scenario. He was nearly a point per game to start the year, just kind of looking like the player we knew and loved, and really, really, really painful for the St. Louis Blues, who were not, I would say, honestly, like watching some of their games, I didn't really think they looked that bad, just not great, and losing their top center is devastating. So any thoughts on what you pulled up first? Yeah, you pulled up the Blues. So what are your thoughts here on the Blues?
Yeah, I mean, because of pricing, of course, you can make an argument for pretty much any of their number one power play guys. I, I don't see it personally against the Toronto team that, they can certainly lose to anyone. They gave up 6 to Columbus yesterday. So, it's not like it's infallible, but not a matchup I love to target because I feel like the field is more willing to target Toronto than maybe they should be. Um, like you said, this is what they rolled out with the acknowledgement that I think it was Texier had a stand-in. I think it was Sundqvist skating for him, and so there could be some changes if Sundqvist is cleared to play. I'm guessing that's a fourth line change, but there's a little bit of uncertainty. Um, I think Braden Shen is fine. So like maybe a Jake Neighbors one off. Like I'm not like I mean Robert Thomas is a really good player. He's not a guy for fantasy where you're like, oh my god, like I can't play him. Like what am I doing? If you like Jordan Kyrou before, you probably should still like Jordan Kyrou. I'm just not really a guy who's been playing St. Louis, but Justin Falk is still really in play. Um, his price hasn't gone up despite him being pretty much locked into this line one power play one type role on defense. So I'm okay with it, but certainly not an area that I'm prioritizing here. So, Scott Prunovich is going to play, and I think he's going to run the power play too. So I'm not sure if that takes away from one of these guys. Could be Broberg getting a cut, but I'm not sure because Broberg's been pretty good too. So
He's been really.
I don't know.
Yeah,
We definitely need to get this confirmation.
Yeah, 6 points in 7 games for Philip Broberg, outscoring Zach Hyman by that would put him at 6-point lead. There was some funny stats, but yeah, I mean, what they're going to do without Robert Thomas is this is kind of why Pavel Buchnevich, part of the reason they tried to put him at the second line center. They're just going to move him up to the top line. Yeah. So I think if you're
Braden Shen is now Robert Thomas, so like it is what it is.
But yeah, I think like if you're playing Kyrou, Buchnevich makes a lot of sense. I'm not though. I guess I lean way heavier on the other side of this game, which I do think will be popular. But getting over to the other side of the game, I don't. Did we get lines? Did we get practice today? I was gonna look.
No,
I totally forgot.
They're on a back to back. So
they run a back to back. So I mean, yeah, they got crushed. I mean, it's expected goals numbers weren't really, like a lot of times you see like, oh, like they lost 6-2, but like, man, they got goalied a little bit. Like, no, they just got cranked. And like, I don't know what they're going to do. There could be some changes, so definitely keep an eye on it. But, I think Austin Matthews is going to be a great play tomorrow. I mean, he always is. If he's with Marner and Nylander, it doesn't really matter. I do think that this is kind of a situation where you could, if you're going to go all the way in and you're like I'm kind of alluding to, I think part of my plan is going to be to play like a 4-man. You could play it, OEL as long as he sticks on that top power play, which again, they didn't score on the power play. He could lose that role. He did look great in their last game, but still saw 20 minutes. But you could actually afford the Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Oliver Ekman Larson. That could be a play. And I think I'm going to be trying it in a few different builds and seeing how it rolls.
Yeah, Matthews is always in play. I don't particularly think this is like the best spot. But there's also the Berube coach angle where obviously St. Louis fired Berube, the bounce back from the Columbus, embarrassment. Like there's certainly a lot of reasons to point at narratively speaking that this is a pretty good spot for Toronto. But yeah, that's about it. I'm not really. I mean, we just need lines. We need to know for sure. Who is Tavares centering? Who is Nylander with? Like, could Marner and Nylander switch? Sure. I just don't think we should play this guessing game. And it's not like there's a standout value that like, oh yeah, you just play him as a one-off and you're good. So,
do you want to talk about another team that got kind of embarrassed on Tuesday?
Oh boy, let's do it. The New Jersey Devils get to bounce back against Detroit, who the field got punished by on Tuesday, shutting out the Islanders. New Jersey giving up, was it a natural hat trick to Hagel?
It was
8 minutes. Yeah. Just real impressive stuff. The ultimate FU to I think you bet him to score the other day.
Of course.
Yeah, very funny.
Yeah. Oh,
Get
I
absolutely
laughed. I laughed so hard. I just kept laughing.
Yeah.
Funny. Okay.
They changed a little bit in practice today. They moved Palat up to the top line with Hughes and Bratt. Now, before that was Cotter. It's not like, Timo is pretty safe on this Heischer Mercer line. So that seems steady. And it's just a matter of whether it's Palat or Cotter or Howla or Nason or even Tatar, could get a shift up there at some point. The real intrigue is defensively. Luke Hughes and Brett Pesce returned to practice. They led the post-game or the post-practice stretch. They were paired together, which I don't think they'll be playing together. I'll be honest on, when the, I guess, time comes. Though it is possible that they just slot in as the second pair, and then the third pair is Siegenthaler and Kovacevic. The reason I'm not convinced they play though is because I think Simone Nemec is their fifth best defenseman. So I think if they were going with Pesce and Hughes both return defensively, they would have just paired Siegenthaler with Nemec. So that's why I think they both miss one more game, but we'll see. They could obviously warm up differently in pregame skate or in morning skate tomorrow, and just be cognizant of that because if all else fails, Nemec is an okay punt at 2,600, but keep an eye out for the return of Pesce and Hughes into the lineup. Anything to add on New Jersey?
No. I mean, it's, keep an eye on all of it for New Jersey. It's obvious that they're in a good spot. Detroit is very bad. And they got destroyed by I think it was since 1958, they're the first team to win a game with 10 shots on goal. They had 0.9 expected goals as a team in the entire game. That's, not good. They just were incredibly bad. And I guess fortunately for them, the Islanders couldn't produce much either, like 2.6 expected goals on 29 shots and hit the post once. It's not even like there was just all this extra luck involved. Like it was an incredibly boring game. Where the Islanders had one line that almost could produce, and unfortunately for them, that line no longer has Duclair, and that makes it much worse. So they move forward. They put the Larkin line out there against the Barzal line as much as possible. I expect that to be on Jack Hughes. I'm not afraid to target that matchup at all. I'm fine with it. I don't know if I'm going with Hischier or Timo, but I get it. It's just that Timo, 14 minutes, not on the power play one, but he did score on the power play. So I guess you never know if he'll end up getting back there, but it's kind of hard to stomach.
Yeah. Defensively, we see Detroit, their underlyings aren't terrible. Again, obviously it's 6 games. So they're right around average defensively. It's sort of on the offensive end where they just cannot generate. You see where my mouse is hovering. One of the worst teams so far in the NHL, offensively at 5-on-5, and that's something that I'm not overly surprised by, just based on their history. But though, of course, is a little disappointing come with the expectation coming in that they would, be quasi-competitive and whatnot. Feels like a good spot for New Jersey. Jack Hughes 8,400 is a significant discount off of the McKinnon-Matthews tier, and even less than Pastrnak, Kucherov, Kaprizov, who we'll get to. So if he comes in at 10% ownership, I think that's cool. It's very possible, though, that the chalk forms around New Jersey, and I'm not convinced that that's the best either, given how spread out their power plays and their 5-on-5 correlations are. On the Detroit front, they also updated lines despite the win. So DeBrincat, Larkin, Raymond, line 1, power play 1 correlated. Kane, Comfort, Tarasenko as the second line. Again, fine, just not overly exciting. But the power play 1 with Kane, Raymond, Larkin, DeBrincat, and Gustafsson does insert Gustafsson into the punt-ish D range at 3,400 for him. He's a fine way to go. He's not going to offer you much block shot equity, so he's really point dependent, meaning I would probably try to fit in a DeBrincat or Larkin or even a Kane Raymond, just at their prices, all sub 6K. If Gustafsson's putting up a 15 to 20 point night, you're probably going to need, one of those guys just to sort of keep your lineup on case to win a tournament. You can play Gustafsson one-off, but again, it's probably his best games are coming with his teammates, not necessarily in spite of them, through like double bonuses or something like that that you might get from other defensemen. Anything you like on the Detroit side?
Not really. I mean, I guess I'll mention two things. Number one, we talked about how incredibly safe Mo Seider had been, and he goes out and gets a true 0 against the Islanders, which just made me laugh more than anything. It's just like this guy had been an absolute machine. The other thing, and something that I've kind of been monitoring early in the year, is Simone Edvinsson. I played him a couple times. He rewarded me with a couple blocks bonuses, but nothing more. Did have a kind of a goal blocks bonus game against Nashville. I'm not saying this guy is ultra in play by any stretch of the imagination, but it does seem like he is slowly turning into a guy they trust a ton and playing with Mo Seider in the shutdown role. So like, I think you could do worse at 2,800 than a guy getting 20 plus minutes and has multiple, block bonuses in his repertoire. It's a huge slate and very top heavy. So it's like, is 8 points enough? Maybe not. Just, I guess I'll at least mention to keep an eye on that guy just in case we see a little bit more offensive production come his way. But that would mean the team that probably need to be better around him.
Yeah. If they're trailing, this Casper Berggren thing could be interesting. Like I kind of feel like the minutes are just not going to be there regardless. But if they're in a trailing script, maybe we get those two up to 15 minutes. They're super talented players. They're going to be a combined 5K. Now, not to fast forward too far, but we're going to get to a punt line that absolutely nuked last slate in this Cooley, Hedel, and Kako line. So like you don't need to go like thin punty. You can just go to that line that's still super cheap that just did it. But if you're trying to be a total sicko, I kind of like this third line, Veleno, Casper, and Berggren for like some really crazy shit if you're just looking for stacks to throw in there. Let's head over to Minnesota at Tampa. Did you know, DJ, Minnesota has not trailed in all 6 of their games so far this year. They are 4-0-2, meaning their OT losses, of course. They've not been trailing. They're the only team in, second team, I think, in NHL history to go their first 6 games without trailing ever. So, yeah, you're Minnesota Wild, the best team in the league right now, question mark?
I mean, I know and I believe, I won't speak for you directly, we were pretty high on the Wild to come into the season, but compared to the field, that everyone kind of felt like they're like, this team is stupid. Who cares about this team? They're not good. And me and you were like, well, they actually have, I would say, a top 5 player in the world to go along with a pretty solid team overall, good defensive structure, and
right?
Okay, and goaltending, which I thought could actually bounce back. Like I went over why I thought Gustafsson was actually a good player to bet on, and then I kind of cowered it away when they talked about the triple goalie situation. But again, let's just say that I do like the Wild a lot. On the other end of this is no slouch in Tampa. They, of course, looked pretty bad on the solo slate against Toronto. They bounced back in a big way, scoring 8 against the Devils. We already talked about it. It's 2 very good teams. It's 2 teams that I don't like to target, but it's 2 teams that have scored a ton of goals. And it's 2 teams that go into a 6 over under -125. Not the highest total on the slate so far, because there was the Devils game, which I didn't mention, but that's a 6.5 -120. But again, like it could move in the right way or whatever. The Lightning are -148 favorites here. It kind of feels like there could be something here. I just don't know like what you're putting together that has the winning upside. Both teams feel difficult to stack for different reasons. So what team do you have pulled up right now?
Yeah, I have Minnesota up.
Yeah.
We could get Ryan Hartman back. He's sort of been like a game time decision in each of the last couple. So not sure there. My guess is that would take out Ogren from either the lineup or at least from the power play. But again, you're not playing these Minnesota or Tampa for the depth pieces on this biggest slate. Kaprizov Zuccarello has been pretty lethal. I would definitely play Zuccarello with Kaprizov at this point. I think the trigger man tendencies from Zuccarello are in full force, and he's the sort of guy where if Kaprizov's feeling like he wants to pass to his buddy, Zuccarello is certainly a player who I like to take advantage of that. So him being cheaper than Eriksson and Boldy, despite not being at 5-on-5 with Kaprizov, I like Zuccarello more than the Kaprizov plus Eriksson plus Boldy or anything like that. Marco Rossi's he's he's whatever. It's not going to kill you to fade him, but you could also play him if the salary works. But yeah, that's where I would go. On the Tampa front, I think it's pretty obvious. I actually like Connor Geeky a lot. Like he seems like a pretty good NHL ready prospect. They got him, of course, in the Sergachev deal. So him being 2,500 and playing with Hagel and Cirelli is at least interesting. Hagel, I think we're both going to really like him. Just he's underpriced for a power play one job. He is a very, very good player, just at 5-on-5. And him being so discounted off of Gensel and Point doesn't really match the profile that he has, which is just of an unbelievable play driver. So when he gets someone like Geeky and obviously Cirelli having a 4 assist night on Tuesday is a good sign too. But like there actually is some talent in the top 6. It's not just Kucherov and a bunch of idiots. So yeah, I could get behind either one of these top lines, but probably shade toward the second line just because of how much cheaper it is and Geeky's value as a player.
I do agree that it just kind of feels like chasing your tail a little bit to say like, oh man, Cirelli had what 5 points, 4 points. Okay, yeah, I think they both had 4 points, Cirelli, Hagel, and this go right back to it here feels like
you
kind of missed the boat. I kind of think I'm not going to end up on this game, but I really, really respect it because I do think I just like the Toronto 4-man more, and there's absolutely no way you're fitting in this Tampa situation, Kaprizov or Kucherov in that mix. So I don't think I'm getting there at this point, but there's no reason against it at all. I also kind of like the next game a good bit, and we're about to get over to that next game. Unless there's any last, I mean, again, the Hagel thing, I talked about it. I went over how much I loved him. I bet him to the moon and back, and then I just kind of faded the 3 early games, and the game got going, and I was like, shit, I was going to bet Hagel to score, but I kind of missed that, didn't I? Smart, and then he scored a hat trick. So over to Florida at the Rangers. Matt, Eastern Conference Final last year, is that right?
No. No. The case?
Yeah.
Did Carolina lose
Carolina?
to the Rangers?
I can't remember.
I don't know.
Who lost to the no, it was the Rangers. It was the Rangers because I remember thinking like, man, I hate to see the Rangers make the cup, but that actually might be really cool if it's the Rangers and the Oilers. That'd be sick. So I think it was. I think it is a rematch, but whatever. It is a minus 155 for the home Rangers, 5.5 over under minus 125. By the way, so what are your thoughts on these? Matt the Chuck back in the lineup for the Panthers.
Yeah, it was a rough night against Minnesota, but don't worry. Paul Maurice got his contract extension, and immediately after the game said, "Nope, that loss is on me. They're supposed to be ready. They weren't ready. Entirely my fault." So bad job, Paul Maurice. Maybe he will just make this team good again magically. Maybe he'll tell a few jokes or something. But yeah, just probably an outlier. This is a matchup of 2 pretty strong heavyweights, I would say. There's not really anything jumping out at me in the early stages that say either one of these teams is a weak, either defense or offense at this point. Obviously, the Rangers are super high-powered to start, and they're coming off of a pretty impressive win. And, of course, Florida, they started a bit slow, but they've rounded in the form, and largely speaking, Sam Reinhart's on a different dimension. So that's pretty cool. And then you can also see that defensively, the Rangers are rock solid. They're not as good as you would expect, but again, they've been leading for so much. And Florida without Barkov are, I guess, a little susceptible, but nothing extreme. They're not Montreal. They're not Montreal by any stretch. So I don't know.
Hard to be that bad.
There's some value like on the first line. The second line just feels totally nuked. Like the time to play Sam Bennett was a week and a half ago, not right now. I'm certainly not paying 22K for that line. And then I don't believe Lindell was power play 1 last game, but again, that could change.
They
that's
didn't
right.
have a power play.
Yeah, so that is right. So didn't get to check that. So yeah, first line is where I would go, but I'm probably not touching any part of this game. So, yeah,
Yeah.
What do you have on the Rangers?
If I'm playing this game, I'm going back to Panarin because I feel like he's going to be really low owned comparatively to any other slate. I don't know what did his ownership come in on the.
I think it was like
big
9%.
slate. Yeah, it wasn't as great. I thought he could get a little bit chalky, and it really didn't happen. And like, I don't know. It just I'm not saying I'm definitely going to do it, but that game felt like the Panarin faders got rewarded for. In reality, he had 5 shots on goal and an assist, and it's like the 15 is not enough at his price, but like things could have definitely broke the other way. They broke that other way for every other line, including the Pito, Kako, Cooley line, which I know you wanted to mention. I mean, even freaking Brodsnack scored a goal, and like Brandon Schneider. It's like,
would you like to try again?
Brodsnack? Brzezinski. Isn't there a player, Kyle Brodsnack, too?
I mean, there's no N in Kyle Brodziak, but yeah, he's a long time retired.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, I could go back to Panarin. I'm not saying I'm going to. Again, I think that, like, my lineup is probably going to be a Toronto 4-man. There's a few things we're going to get to, why I think I can afford it, that we haven't really touched on yet. But, I mean, one option to afford it could be the Heat line, so I'll let you mention that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not chasing the points, but Cooley, Kako, and Hedel were really good in the playoffs last year. Again, Hedel missed a lot of time, so it's mostly you're talking Cooley and Kako together, but like they were genuinely good. Hedel is a very good player. He just missed most of last season due to concussion symptoms, or whatever you want to say he was diagnosed with, but just a really kind of dark time for him personally. He seems to be back and firing, so like I don't mind this line. Again, I don't love it because I'm not sitting here like, Florida's a team that I really want to target, especially now that guys like Erod are hanging out on the third line. Like they're just not as shallow as they were before. But yeah, if you wanted to, you could definitely chase those points to fit in some super studs. I have no problem with the Cooley, Hedel, Kako stuff. And Hedel and Kako both play power play time at, a combined 6,100. So a lot of good values across the board. And obviously your power play one creditors have been Jed, Panarin, Trocheck. Nothing's really going to stand out as being over-owned or anything if you are, factoring in a matchup with Florida. So let's take a quick pause for a couple of YouTube comments. What's up, DM? Almost took down Underdog last night, round up in third. Thanks for all the content y'all put out. No problem. Congratulations. Hopefully you had a fun SWAT and that nothing totally horrendous happened to you to move you out of that top spot. I know someone in our Discord was leading the 150, and he said he's a betting guy. I think was it playing pipe? He never plays the DFS part and whatnot. And then I want to say he got hurdled. Yeah, he got hurdled. Out of the just sickening stuff. Going from 5K and like a 20-point lead to watching Hurdle beat you by 10, 15 points alone. But a couple others.
I had 280 an entry on Underdog yesterday, and I won 275. Pretty impressive stuff. I had 13th place, and very, very sad that it couldn't be better. I had a great number of cash, but lost $5. Tough noodles for me in the Underdog streets, but we'll be right back at it.
Yep. Scott Harris, who are some good cheap defensemen. Thanks, guys. We already mentioned Gustafsson, so that's one. But yeah, we'll mention a few as we go, and we already have mentioned a few. So
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm trying to think of any that we mentioned that were like. I mean, Oliver Ekman-Larsson at 4,200 is probably still fine, and like now that he's had a couple bad games in a row, people might come off him a bit. That's probably my favorite. That's 4,100, but nothing else stands out. But getting into another game with
and then Aaron, one more, a little susceptible. Florida without Barkov is still Florida. Like they're not, they're not a bad team even without Barkov, and they have a lot of good defensive players. So they're not a team that's one player dependent. And everything goes to shit if that one player goes down. So that's why I say a little susceptible. Nothing extreme. But yeah, let's get over to a West Coast 4 games to end it. Carolina in Calgary. Our favorite coach, Rod Brindamore, after the game, that Carolina-Edmonton game was genuinely a lot of fun. I think it was 3-2 final, but like it was a lot of pace, a lot of tempo. And of course, Rod Brindamore says something to the extent of, well, that was a lot of fun, a little bit more fun than I would have liked. And like, that's coaching for you. They win the game. They only score 5 total goals, but no, they need to play sounder defense. They need to chip and chase and, not play back and forth hockey. While introducing the Calgary Flames, who only do that. I don't love the visual of Carolina coming in at 15-20% ownership with these egregious pricings, and then just watching a 2-1 grinded out Calgary just sits on it, and Carolina just tries to get back to their quote unquote game sort of situation. So I'm scared. I'm very scared of Carolina chalk. They switched to some awful lines too to end the game. I don't know if these will hold or not. We didn't get a practice or anything to update these. But just before I let you go, Svechnikov, Aho, Roslovic was how they ended. Robinson up with Nachos and Kokaniemi. That's Eric Robinson of Buffalo Sabres and Columbus Blue Jackets fame on their second line, because why the hell not? Also, he's terrible on both those teams the last few years. And then the third line, Martinook, Stahl, and Seth Jarvis. Who knows if that was a response to McDavid? Who knows, why that was done? But basically, it was done to get Will Carrier out of the top 6 and down onto the fourth line with Jack Drury and Jackson Blake. So, yeah, not really fun lines. Hopefully, they go back to the Jarvis, Svechnikov, Aho or something similar. But what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I love the matchup for Carolina. I was kind of thinking, I was like, man, I wonder where ownership goes. It feels like it almost has to be a little bit on this. Like Svechnikov is one of the more mispriced players on the entire slate, and I do think it's going to be pretty dumped on. The Flames, I think it's pretty well documented, and we've said it all along. They're definitely a fraudulent, powerhouse. The deck of cards will break eventually, and their defensemen won't score 100 goals, although they're on pace for, I believe, 200 goals combined between Rasmus Anderson and Mackenzie Weegar. I believe they score every single goal. Every time they shoot the puck, it just goes in. But yeah, it's hard for me if it's Aho, Jarvis, and Svechnikov not to give that a really, really good hard look. And I'm almost hoping they don't do that. Like they do what you have up here, and they put Roslovic up there, and they put Jarvis down with Stahl and Martinook, just so I can avoid this game and just completely fade it and not think about it again, and just hope that it fails, because I do think Aho and Svechnikov and Gostisbehere will, if Jarvis isn't up there, we'll see quite a bit of ownership. So, if you're playing it, I'm not saying you're wrong. I just think that you might actually want to throw in Nachos. You might actually want to, go all the way 4 or 5-man stack this, say that they absolutely nuke the slate to smithereens, and then, you find whatever else, because yeah, of all, I think this will definitely be the highest ownership situation. Like Svechnikov will be the highest owned player.
Yeah. I just want to mention Brent Burns through 5 games has 25 shot attempts and 10 block shots. He's $4,000, getting secondary power play time. I don't mind that. I'll be honest. He's been a little bit more lively than I would have suspected. You sort by expected fantasy points in the NHL, and among defensemen, he's right around the Brandt Clark, Miro Heiskanen. It's not a ton. He's not top 5 or anything, but it's in the top 20, and the price just continues to fall. It just doesn't seem like he's quite that. He shouldn't be going to 0 basically, and that's the way his price is moving. So I don't mind that. Probably not stacking him with Nate Schatz, Aho, that type of thing. But if you just want a one-off defenseman, I like the value that Burns has to offer. On the Calgary front, I don't know. We're obviously seeing the prices of Weegar and Anderson go through the roof. The forwards haven't really come with it, but of course that's because the forwards just haven't been that good. So Kadri's productive, but 6,500 against Carolina, you're probably not going there. So anything stand out to you on the Calgary side?
No, I mean, not. I don't think you're possibly actually pulling the trigger on this. Their offense has come through their defense in actually a pretty big way. Anderson and Weegar have shot a ton, but I mean, Mackenzie Weegar, I mean, Rasmus Anderson has hit the blocks bonus in every single game, which is impressive. And like,
yeah,
he's 6K, which is just overpriced, but it is what it is. Mackenzie Weegar, I mean, again, both these guys do have really good ceilings, but this is just not a matchup I want to target. I do understand like betting a blocks, prop or something against Carolina, whatever you want to do there. But like, I'm not going to spend up on defense through the Flames when like these lines are pretty messy. Let me just look at what you have one more time because they actually had. No, you have it right. Yeah, Kirkland with Huberdeau and Mantha. Just of course, Justin Kirkland. Got to throw him in the mix. I don't know, man. Just messy, disgusting. I really wonder if you couldn't be onto something with like two teams that want to play as boring as possible. On one end, you have a bad team, and on the other, you have a good team. So we'll see how that goes. But if that good team in Carolina gets up 2-0, do they just completely sit on it? And like that seemingly is what they want to do. So
for sure. And Justin Kirkland, according to everyone in the locker room, apparently is absolutely nails in the shootout. So congratulations to Justin Kirkland for
won it in the shootout.
Well, yeah, but like they were all saying, well, if you saw the Abbotsford Heat or whatever they're called now, that they you would know that Justin Kirkland was going to score in the shootout. It's like, okay, that's why he shot 7th or 9th or whatever the hell it was. So yeah. But anyway, that just another no name to go into this lineup here. Colorado going into Utah. Colorado gets back Devon Toews. They win a game against Seattle that, they played, I guess, fine, but it was pretty boring. McKinnon didn't uber giga smash. Ross Colton didn't score for the first time in forever, so that's obviously a disappointment. Maybe of note, they sent Kel Ritchie back to the OHL, so he's no longer with them. I guessed on what they would do with their lines otherwise, but obviously this is a one-line team still between Colton at 5,400, McKinnon 9,800, and Rantanen at 9K, with Cal McCarr at 85 and Devon Toews at 39. May I introduce to you Devon Toews, chalk of the night at 3,900. DJ, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it definitely was like, I stacked Ottawa last time. They scored 4 on 2.3 expected goals, all of them in the first period. I'm sitting there thinking, yep, the wheels are finally falling off in Utah. I don't know if that's really the case entirely. Like, is Utah actually bad? I don't really think so. Are they better than Colorado? I also don't think so. It is a minus 135 for Colorado. It is a 6.5 over under. I do think that there could be some fireworks on either side, but I think I'm actually more interested in the Utah side of this equation. You look at this roster in Colorado, and when Toews, McCarr, and McKinnon and Rantanen aren't on the ice, it's really rough. I'm almost wondering if this isn't the time to jump back on the Dylan Guenther bandwagon. He has still been a rates monster. He's still been integral in their offense. It just kind of is, it's kind of one of those things. I was trying to describe this to someone where it's like, is Dylan Guenther a better hockey player than, try to pick out a guy that maybe, I don't know, like you could think of a player. It's like maybe not, but like what he does is so important for fantasy and winning a slate, especially at super low ownership. Who are they going to try? Who is Utah going to use against McKinnon? I nearly can guarantee their plan is not going to be to throw Colton and Guenther. I mean, not Colton. Cooley and Guenther and McBain at that top line. So I will tentatively pencil in going on the other side of this and playing 6,200 Dylan Guenther. That's, again, I think a really good pivot to a guy that I believe at 35 goal upside. He has 5 goals on the year. He's a guy that can, bonus 2 goals and put the slate pretty, you could take you up to that 20K notch, especially at low ownership. So that's kind of where I'm leaning.
Yep. In response to their loss, they called up Maverick Lamoureux, who profiles as a defensive defenseman, but it's worth noting that he's a junior player last year, former first rounder in 2022. So he's a young guy, and also makes the Pronman list as like one of the better young players in the NHL. So it's very possible he makes a defensive impact. It's possible that they want to sort of get him in alongside of Sergachev or something if they truly do have like this long range view in mind. So keep an eye on him. I have no idea if he's going to block a bunch of shots or whatever. His minor league profile does not show he's much of an offensive guy, but like maybe he'll shoot, maybe he'll block pucks. And again, 2,500, just whatever. Keep an eye on him for sure. But I pretty much agree with you on the Gunther thing. I will be hard pressed to not be going right back to that well. Just even if he's only getting 16 minutes on average, like he's just going to shoot so much in that time, and he's going to be fed by the likes of Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz on the power play, and Logan Cooley at 5-on-5. Like it's just really hard to turn that down again against the Colorado team. That yes, they're getting goaltending finally. All hail Justus Annunen, but it's not a team that you should be afraid of defensively, especially like you say, if they're going to be avoiding the mega five-some that the likes of Hayton and Alex Kerfoot should be left to handle.
Yep. 100%.
So, yeah. Two more games.
Two more games.
We're looking at Winnipeg at Seattle. Winnipeg also one of the are they still undefeated? Is that correct?
That is correct, and not even an overtime loss or nothing. They just win every game. They just win. They're the best team named Jets by a substantial margin. And Kyle Connor is just going to score 100 goals this year.
I mean, it's really an easy game when you think about it.
If you just shoot the puck into the net and score, you could win. Yeah, I mean, Kyle Connor is just that guy. I mean, he really, like, if you watch his goal against the Blues, it literally looked like someone just forgot to cover him for 1 second, and he's like, well, then I'm just scoring. Like, you can't do that. I do think that Seattle is, like, a fine team and, like, better defensively than you'd think. I think for all of the, it's like, I can say Chandler Stevenson was a terrible contract and then still say, but this year he makes them better defensively. And, like, they're going to play Stevenson, Schwartz, and Bjorkstrand a ton at 5-on-5. And that's a good line that can definitely go against this Winnipeg one.
They have all new lines, so don't reference those.
It's Beniers with McCann.
Okay. I will just go to Seattle. If you want me to go to Seattle, I'll go there. Right. But there's brand new lines.
It's Bjorkstrand, Tolvanen, and Gord, and then it's Stevenson, Schwartz.
Okay, I will go to Seattle.
Tanev. Oh my God. That's the last guy I'm missing. Okay. So I will not be playing Seattle 1,000%. I probably won't be playing Winnipeg either, but I could see it. It's a 5.5 -120, -130 for the Winnipeg Jets in Seattle. I think I'm fading this game. It's really the point I'm making, I guess, in general. Okay. But man, do I want to fade? I'm definitely not playing Seattle.
Yeah. On the Winnipeg front, the top line is underpriced for sure. Are you afraid of a shutdown line of Stevenson, Schwartz, and Tanev? I don't know, maybe, but probably shouldn't be. Larson's going to be paired with Riker Evans. Maybe Montour Alexiak's their new shutdown line. Like that's very plausible, I think. But yeah, the top line certainly offers some value relative to other top lines that are perfectly power play uncorrelated around the league. And then, of course, it's right back to the well of Perfetti, Nemestikov, Ehlers, where Perfetti just continues to produce. He's still 3,300. He's still got a bunch of prospect pedigree behind him. So there's really no end in sight as far as him being priced like this has upside. Just you're looking at a Utah-like situation where the minutes are just going to be relatively tough to come by. So, you're going to need him to produce in 14 to 16 minutes, but there's no problem with it. And, of course, if you play him, you should probably just jam in Nick Ehlers, who's one of the better permanent players in the NHL and drives play and whatnot. Colin Miller, totally respectable play at 2,500. Not sure what he needs to do to be priced up a little bit. But on the other side, I think Riker Evans should be, not piled on defensively, but people are noticing him, and he's a solid prospect type that, of course, will now be in a power play role with the top pair billing alongside Adam Larson. The Montour price has risen to the point where that's probably just not necessary. But We like Riker Evans. He's pretty cheap. And the Tolvin and Gord Bjorkstrand line, what's old is new again. Tolvin is still pretty cheap if he holds on to a power play job, which as we saw, he is holding onto it over Burakovsky specifically. And RIP to Shane Wright, who is now a fourth line center for Seattle.
Rest in peace to Shane Wright.
Right.
I almost had it all, but I was not correct. Yeah, Seattle is a really, really cheap option that I won't be playing, and it's Winnipeg 1 or nothing for me, but I definitely get the Perfetti situation. We're on to the final game of the night, and it's an interesting one. I guess I kind of Adrian Kempe is right here next to me in my backdrop right now. They go to play just helpless San Jose Sharks team. Finally at home. They're fine. They have not been home yet, the LA Kings. There was something going on. I don't remember what it was. There was a reason behind it. It's minus 325 for the home LA Kings. It's a 6 over under. This is what I would consider a very bad San Jose Sharks team. Call me crazy. A San Jose Sharks team that scored 1 goal against Anaheim. You'll never guess who scored it. It's always Mikael Granlund. Every night. Just he's going to get a point until I die. Point per game player. People will actually potentially even click on him because they're sociopaths. They're rolling players like Alex Wenberg for 20 minutes, and yet for some reason it doesn't matter. Top power play. Do you know who the top power play defenseman was last game for San Jose? Do you have it up?
Yes. Yeah, you're probably not looking at what I'm sharing, but yes, it was Jack Thompson. Who we talked about lastly.
I know.
And he came out and punished us. He was like, hey, learn my name. And I was like, yes, sir.
Yep. Assist, blocks bonus, another punt defenseman for our punt defenseman lookers. Riker Evans will be infinitely more owned. Not literally infinitely, but whatever Riker Evans is, this will be a 7th of 6 of the ownership, whatever you want to call it.
And Thompson only had 2 shots on goal, but he had 7 attempts. So, 25.
He was involved.
Hard to beat. It's
hard to beat. Like he actually is like, I'm not playing San Jose. Let's not get it twisted. That is a good punt. Very, very fine. And like William Buckland has continued to be very, very good. Like you could do worse than a 2-man. And I'm not going to say that I completely I'm not going to say I'm unable to stack against LA, but I do respect LA a good bit. And I think Eklund and Jack Thompson are fine.
Yep. And Jack Thompson, if you missed it last show, came over in the Duclair trade, I believe, with Tampa. It could have been something prior to that, but I'm pretty sure it was that one. And he was a 3rd rounder in 2020. Decent-ish AHL profile, played a full season there. So this seems like what he is. It's a fine offensive defenseman, but certainly nothing special. But fine is perfectly okay on this San Jose blue line where block shots bonuses are very much in play against anyone. And he's getting power play run. And again, he took over for Wallman last game on that power play. And so, we'll see if it sticks or not. Not really positive, but a good sign was that they scored with him out on the ice. So likely to stick that way. Finally, for the chalky chalk of the night, welcome to LA. At home, like you said, facing San Jose. LA's been really good defensively to start the year. They've not really gotten the results to show for it. Their goaltending has been pretty suspect, which, you could argue a tandem of Rittich and Cam Talbot, who's hurt, and Phoenix Copley should be susceptible or weak, but, it is what it is.
Wrong guy. You mean Darcy Kemper, but you said Talbot. But
yes.
That's fine.
Yes, Darcy Kemper, Cam Talbot. My best ball bags are going to 0 regardless. So very cool, very cool. But Big Save Dave should be holding down the fort while we go. I just wanted to note before I hand it off to you that after last game, they got punished by Vegas on the nightcap. The coach specifically called out this Vogel, Turcotte, and LaFerriere line is playing really well and saying that, quote, like all the other guys on the bench should be watching this line play. So I'm expecting some movement in this top 6, but I do not expect this third line to be broken up. And again, we talked about Turcotte, but he's a gifted prospect, the 5th overall pick a few years back, lost a lot of time due to injury, but he's still only 23, I think, maybe 24. And he's really showing out. He's getting some power play run. He's 2,600. He was on the ice with the empty net a couple games ago. So like I really like him. And then of course Laferriere. I just don't think they're replacing him on the power play because he's a right-handed shot. He's the only guy here that is relevant with a right shot, and they seem to like him. So I don't think he's losing his job. I like that mini two-man stack to get away from the Kempe Kopitar, garbage stacks that come through. But just be mindful that we could get new line mates. Andre Lee played with Kopitar and Kempe to close last game. So just not a fun time for the Kings top six.
Yeah, no, I really agree with it. Like this is kind of the cheap stack that I've been saving myself, I guess. It is the I think it's you kind of do it a couple different ways, but the Ferrier Turcotte Vogel situation is definitely of note. You get a little power play one exposure, you get a little bit of hopefully what could be a 5-on-5 line that actually gets a little bit more rollout, like you're saying, which has been the only problem for Turcotte. It's just been he hasn't seen enough ice to kind of give him the opportunity to be as relevant as I'd like. But this is a really nice little way of probably getting unique because I do think that it's really easy on this slate to play Kopitar Kempe if you want to, and you could very easily say, this guy. I'm not sure if you've heard of this Brant Clark guy, but might want to check in on him. He seems all right.
Oh,
so
he went down in price overnight, and I'm just so excited to play him at 30% owned.
Right. I mean, yeah, I know. So like, I think you could just play like Clark, Laferriere, or Turcotte. I actually think that's a justifiable situation that you could just run with. Any interest in Jordan Spence though before we move to the final segments and get out of here?
No. He's been really getting roped around time on ice wise. He's just not shown much from a fantasy perspective either. If I'm going to play a non-Brant Clark entity, it's going to be the Anderson Gavrikov pairing. They're playing 25 minutes a night. They do enough to be relevant. You can see they don't shoot a ton, but they block enough shots to where like they're league average. And if they're getting 25 minutes and they're league average per minute, guess what? That's going to be a pretty good fantasy candidate. So yeah, I'm playing one of these three defensemen for sure. Nobody else on the LA front. And again, just be mindful of the news. So ready for top stacks and guarantee goals?
Sure. Top stacks, there's plenty of options.
Wookie knows puck here. LA 3.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He did say that before we even like got into. Okay. And it was just funny how like I was thinking it, and then you said it, and then Wookie already had said it, and I'm just like, oh boy, are people gonna play LA 3 tomorrow? I thought this was going to be, but you know what? They probably won't. So top stacks of the night. Again, this is very daily fantasy focused on DraftKings top heavy slate. Do you have one that you want to kick it off with?
I am going to go with I'm going to go with some Tampa stuff. Maybe let's just go Hagel, Geeky, and Hedman. Obviously Kucherov, I'm probably playing with that set, but yeah, let's just do that and say that Tampa sort of turns Minnesota back into the team that we sort of expect, which is a good team, but certainly not overly relevant.
So read the stack off really quick, just like the whole thing again. One more
Hagel, time. Hedman, and Geeky. Some value.
Okay. So not Sorelli. Just wanted to make sure I had exactly what you were going for there. Man, I mean, I feel like it's probably a coward's way out, but I think I'm just going to stick to the stack I know I'm going to play, and that is the 4-man Toronto, OEL, Nylander, Marner, Matthews, the whole thing for me, please.
Okay. Where to next? Let's do some spending on New Jersey. Let's play Jack Hughes with Dougie. And let's just go Desperate Brat. You can spend up for Brat. You can afford it. So
yep.
Let's just do that mega stack of the New Jersey power play plus D.
I love that. So the way I'm kind of looking at the slate tomorrow is how do I afford that with another stack? And to be honest, it's probably going to come with some LA in the situation. And of course, it'd be kind of just stupid at this point, I think, to actually say LA3 is like a top stack. It's a punt option. So I'll give another stack that I really like, and that is Sergachev, Gunther, and honestly, I mean, I think you could go a few different options with it. I don't know if I'm clicking on Logan Cooley at 4,200. I think you could at least make a case for it, but I'm not. I mean, just doesn't really have a lot of shot equity. But I think you could throw in a Clayton Keller. Like, you could throw in one of those guys and like actually go all the way on Utah in a situation where it's going to be really low ownership. And like when Gunther's getting there, if he's getting 2 goals, 3 points, etc., to break the slate and win it all for you, like Keller's probably involved in that equation pretty heavily. So I think that's the way I would do it. But yeah.
Okay. I don't hate the idea of it being a Nick Schmaltz thing too. Like, if you really want to save that 2,200, I don't think Keller's as instrumental to the power play as, like obviously on a adjusted terms as like a Kucherov, where like I just don't think the puck's only flowing through Keller. Maybe I'm wrong. But I do think if you wanted to try and make it more of a mid-tier build, Schmaltz, Gunther, Sergachev could be useful. Save 1,500 off Keller for Gunther and just sort of hope that Schmaltz is the guy touching the puck before the Gunther, rocket into the net. So just another additional thought there. But let's do guaranteed goals. Do you have any that come to mind for you?
Let me just do one thing. I feel like I had someone picked out before I think I'm going to try to really use my, like, what were the odds? Actually, let me pull up the odds. Let me look if we have anything. I'm going to guess we don't, because the sports books are incredibly slow to react. I had someone that I was like, "Ooh, this guy's going to be a good call." No, I remember I had that player not on the slate. Do you have anyone on top of your head yet?
Let's go Jason Robertson. 6,500 against Boston. Just sort of playing the Thomas Harley is actually the best power play quarterback on Dallas. Don't know how much I believe that at this point, but J-Rob is 6,500. Feels like he's going to be overlooked. The price feels way too low, so just get him on in there, 65, and hope he can break a slate for us before he gets to. I'm sure a home matchup with San Jose is coming down the line where he'll be 28% owned and go for 50.
I do like that. Which LA King player do I actually want to say? Because I feel like, you know what? Let's look at their pricing quickly. I don't mind. Honestly, LaFerriere is he even listed? Am I blind? I don't even see him. Kopitar, Moore, Byfield. Oh, he's plus 270. I'll go with that. I'll go with Alex LaFerriere. That's fun. Take a cheap guy, 4,300 or something, 4,200. Okay.
4,200, and you know exactly where that leads you, probably pricing wise. It leads you right to where Jason Robertson is. So we're just
does it really?
Fishing out of the same pond, if I may say so.
Darn it! I was really trying to. I was like, I'll go really low.
Yeah, this is LaFerriere was certainly the guy I was targeting.
You want LaFerriere? You could take LaFerriere.
No,
I could go elsewhere.
You've already stolen him. You've already stolen my guy. He was my flag plant.
I can unsteal him, and I could go another direction. I could go right back to Ross Colton again.
Are you gonna do that?
Yeah, honestly, fish. I mean, let's look. If it's anything better than it is 20, it's plus 210. Give me Ross Colton, and give me yeah, I'll go in the middle. Colton and Svechnikov. Duh.
Okay. I like that. I was gonna take Nachos if you didn't give me LaFerriere. So I will officially go guaranteed goals of Jason Robertson and Alex LaFerriere. The Fogel, Turcotte, LaFerriere line is the line you're gonna want on this slate, which doesn't necessarily lead itself to fun DFS builds, but maybe you can fit in some mega studs. and play around and use Brant Clark and whatnot, and build some super teams. So let's do that as we head into this Thursday. Yes, RIP to the Wilson dreams, dollar in a dream.
Just unfathomable amounts of pain, unfucking fathomable. It's the Dubois goal, McMichael 2 goals. Never. It's that's quite something. +4, 20 minutes on ice.
I fortunately made enough money in Showdown to cover my the pain that the same game parlay just
$50 bill just right out the fucking window on nonsense. And of course, anytime I bet an under that off the shin pad to a player, backdoor tap in, that is the assist you were looking for. I didn't see the Dubois empty netter, but I'm sure Tom Wilson was probably like wide open and Dubois just
no. It was
a
dead giveaway to Dubois, and he's like, thank you, I'll have another.
Okay, very cool. The only thing that actually makes me not that mad is like I was going to exclude McMichael. I was never excluding Tom Wilson. Like he's been so good to start the year. I'm just like, whatever. Like Tom Wilson is going to be involved in these goals. I guess that's just the reality of the situation. And he's like, nah. Okay, yeah. Let's get out of here though before I start to cry. I don't even know what the rest of the week looks like, but they'll be back.
Okay, Wookie. Do you really think that matters? Ovi was never passing that puck in a trillion years. Tom Wilson, I think, would have eviscerated into a fine dust before Ovi passed him that puck. Like, it just was never happening.
Eviscerated? You mean evaporated?
Yes, sure, whatever.
Me correcting your English. It's a first time for everything. Okay, yeah.
That's how rad we are here.
I thought they scored twice and I was like, oh my god, did I freaking get there? And then to see that I did not, just really the tilting has been tilting. I will probably have most of my action on underdog tomorrow because that's the only place I can win. But where I will also have action is on Dub Club. I did add it to the YouTube. It's the free link. I think it goes right to the checkout. So if you want, you can subscribe to my plays and it goes right through there. And I'm giving some descriptions behind the plays and they're getting a lot of views and a lot of engagement. And I've done well. It's, just again, tonight's just going to be the worst and whatever, but it's not been bad. It's been fun and it's been good to see people enjoying the plays. And yeah,
let's do a quick look just so you can sort of look at what you're expecting if you are there. So you can see on the YouTube screen here just showing that sort of what you do is very similar to what you do on Twitter, but you have more room for explanations if that's the sort of thing you like. It's not just like, oh, well, he's good, so I bet it, because that's all Twitter allows you to do these days. Obviously, Tom Wilson to get a point, the nail in the coffin there, but I had a very similar, just Dubois, Wilson, McMichael. It was plus 630 or something, like just obnoxious. They've already hit twice in like 5 games, so like plus 600 for that, just is whatever. You can see.
Connecting had 6 shots on goal as well. Just it was all the way home. Just all I needed was Tom Wilson to sneeze on the puck. But yeah, I'm just trying to give more free.
Yes, exactly.
Unless if you want to pay. You can pay me if you want. There's an option to pay me if you want. You don't have to.
All right. So that'll do it. Thank you all for tuning in to this 9-game slate preview. I'm not sure what Friday has to offer yet as far as a write-up is concerned on the newsletter that I do. Looks like there's 4 games, but one of them's at 6. So not sure what the DFS slate will look like. Is it Vegas? Is it Nevada Day already? Vegas is playing at 6-3 local, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, I may do another write-up there. Make sure you're subscribed if you want content for the presumably 3-game DFS slate on Friday.
Yep. 14 game run Saturday. I'll be decently busy, but I'll be getting some stuff out. But eventually we'll probably do a Saturday stream. We'll kick a few in and I think the next thing I'm going to do and post is going to be like some of the underdog plays I'm targeting. I might put that as like something that is technically behind the paywall, but I'm not even sure if I'm going to do that or not because I don't even know where the appetite is for that. And it's probably not on Dub Club, but yeah, I was going to just start saying like, I'm getting overweight on these players and this is why on Underdog, but people seem to want that a little bit.
And a genuine thing, if you're still listening to this and you have given DJ like $5 or whatever, if you want to see something, like just let us know because
I don't know what to do.
Yeah,
every idea I come up with I think is bad. So, and this is another one that I was like, is this even like? I don't think the people that are subscribing are doing it because they're like, I really wonder who he's playing on Underdog in the $10, $15, I think it's $10 entry like contest, but and also it's kind of hard to like conceptualize because I don't look at every draft and like again like people will be like, oh, so you're like stacking this team and it's like, well, I'm stacking them, but like if player X falls to me, then I'm just not doing it anymore. You know what I mean? Like
it's really hard to upload vibes to the internet, like if you were doing projections, you could just upload those and say, this is what I'm using, but you're just vibing. You're just living your best life. So,
obviously that's, but that's just not how you win hockey. Like, it's just so you can't just say like, I'm only like, again, like you'll get into lobbies and you'll get into 7 in a row and the same name will pop up 7 times in a row. And the same team will take the same goalie 7 times in a row in the first round because that goalie projects better than everyone else. That is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And then that guy loses. Probably. Not always, but most of the time, because that's not a good way to draft. And they are not stacking and they're not correlating and blah, blah, blah. So like, yeah, not the way to win a slate, in my opinion. But yeah, let's get out of here. I'm going to go draft some teams and then lay in bed and think about the fact that I actually put real US American dollars on Tom Wilson to get a point and stare into the void.
Yeah, I managed to turn 60 something into 530 and would have been 1,000 if Tom Wilson had more than 1.3. I lost first by 0.8. So fun times. But hey.
Tom Wilson, I think it would, because I put 25 on it and then 25 on the boost. And I think it was like 500 something payout.
Yeah, that was 400 on the book too, if he gets a point. But that's neither here nor there.
Play good, run bad. The story of Tuesday and Wednesday for me.
All right. That'll do it. Thank you all for hanging out with us in the YouTube chat. Be sure you get in the Discord. You can DM us at Morningscape Pod. I'm at Fake Moods, or DJ's at DJ_94. If you want to get in the Discord's free. And yeah, so thank you all for listening. From Doug, from DJ, and from myself. Have a good Thursday, everybody, and we will see ya.